But before that, returning to the HbbTV Symposium for the second time, we have Ophélie Boucaud from Dataxis. And Ophélie is going to be giving us an update on some global market figures. So Ophélie, please come to the stage. Thank you.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you for the invitation first. So it's my pleasure to come for the second time to the HbbTV Symposium. I was asked to prepare a presentation on global TV and video market trends. So you'll see that's like pretty large. So I had total freedom to pick and choose the topics that I think are more resonating with the industry for this year and the ones that are going to come very soon. So yeah, that's my name. I don't have my badge yet, but you'll find me if you need me. So first, I wanted to start with the overall CTV landscape. So the global active CTV installed base is set to reach 1.1 billion devices by the end of the year. That's devices that are connected to the internet and used. So active CTV. Out of this, the largest market is in Asia, with over 450 million active connected TV sets by the end of the year. And this part of the world is already the home of more than half of total TV households, which explains also why the growth is most significant in this region. Otherwise, we can see that the highest penetration is found in North America, Western Europe, and East Asian markets, often with more than one CTV connected in just one household. And the penetration is the lowest in the MEA region, so Middle East Africa, still under the 10% threshold across the whole region, as equipment and connectivity remain quite far behind compared to other markets. So clearly, connected TV sets have become largely an unmissable device when you want to address living rooms across the world. And they're enabling a whole new way to consume TV, first with interactive features, then through apps, and also with a very strong personalization, both on UX and on access to content. If we look at the evolution of this market, we can see that the growing demand for CTV and the fast-rising pace of equipment across the world is putting this specific type of device in the position to overpass the number of households that are relying on pay TV subscription and set-top boxes to access TV content by 2027. And this is accompanied by the growing adoption of paid video streaming services, even if this figure is expected to plateau after reaching 40% of global households within the next 2 years. And this is reflected by two parallel trends that affect this figure. First, there's a growing stacking among households that are already equipped with OTT services. So basically, they're just going to get subscribed to more of them, but that will not necessarily expand the number of households equipped with it. And there's also a growing cohort of households that are preferring free services. Now, the monetization of CTV devices has clearly been a gold rush on this market, and TV OS integrate high-value ads directly on their interfaces. So the current global CTV ad market is already valued at around $40 to $45 billion and is poised to experience double-digit growth in the coming years. This is also boosted by the very strong arrival of ad-supported tier on streaming services like Netflix, Prime, HBO Max, Disney+, etc. in the recent years. Ad-supported tiers are already accounting for more than 44% of total paying OTT subscriptions in North America at Q2 2025, and over 40% across Europe top 5, which are the most advanced market in this space. Another aspect of the CTV landscape is obviously its fragmentation. It was mentioned by Vincent before, but you can see here that the top 5 manufacturers across CTV and streaming devices only account for half of the global installed base. So there is still very large space for other brands, especially for manufacturers. But we also see this similar fragmentation on the OS landscape, where there's a growing number of newcomers, most recently TiVo, Titan and Ventura, and we're also seeing more new partnerships in this space, for example, with LG and Samsung opening their OS to other brands, like Tizen becoming available on RCA in the US. And this also is pushed by the fact that operators that are seeing their market dominance and prominence declining are moving into the CTV space. For example, Comcast with Sky Glass. We've also seen Dutch Telecom making deals with Hisense and Vida, DirecTV with TTT Ventura, and other actors that were originally focusing more on the OS side and the monetization aspect are now also launching their own smart TV brands like Roku and Amazon, so all over the place, and that's not getting much better. And another aspect of it, it's the number of apps that are available on CTV by OS. I wanted to highlight this because it's much larger than what can traditionally be found on pay TV interfaces. And it's generally more in line with NAP-based streaming consumption, but there is no common billing, and it only solves the fragmentation of the UI, not really the fragmentation of subscription billing or content. So being natively on tvOS interface is key for content providers to reach their viewers. As you can see, a lot of apps want to be out there, but there are very few options that exist outside of the commercial brands locking up this space, and that's the case of an open standard like HbbTV, which has been a preferred bet for a number of actors, especially free-to-air broadcasters that are now developing their BVOD services and want to be accessible across all CTV ecosystem. Another very important aspect of the way that the industry is evolving is the revenues migrating to digital. So linear TV across free-to-air advertising, pay TV subscriptions, and public funding will only account for 45% of the overall industry this year. And the competition has been intensifying particularly strongly on the advertising side, where video sharing platforms are now really seeming like nothing can stop them at this point. At Q3, we've seen leading actors reporting record-breaking results. YouTube reached the $10 billion mark in ad revenues alone. That's a growth year-on-year of 15%. And Meta reported $50 billion across all advertising revenue, and that's a 26% increase year-on-year. TikTok is also growing significantly outside and inside China with Douyin. So the overall picture looks like video sharing platforms should account for around $150 billion this year alone. So clearly those global trends are favoring hyperscalers, and the impact of revenue digitization is particularly visible in North America and Europe, but we can also see that it's very significant in Asia Pacific, where we have younger audiences and a very strong share of mobile consumption for video content. That's also exemplified by Meta reaching the 10 billion ad revenue mark in Asia alone at Q3. And ad impressions in Asia-Pac jumped by 23% year-on-year, nearly 3 times the pace of US, Canada, and Europe. In more mature market, 2025 has been a harsh wake-up call for the reality of revenue digitization, especially for more traditional, well-established TV brands. H1 revenues have shown a drop, massive drop actually, in leading TV broadcasters' revenues in Western Europe. For example, across Atlas Media, RTL, ITV, ProSieben, and Mediaset Spain, with signs that the transition to digital in BVOD services has not yet been able to compensate for the losses on TV, at least for this year. And consolidation has also started. Vincent mentioned earlier some of the examples. So RTL is acquiring Sky in the German-speaking market. Media for Europe is stepping up its ambition across Europe and has secured total ownership of ProSieben, now looking at expansion in Portugal. And Sky also just announced that they're planning to acquire ITV's broadcast activity in the UK. So those may all be signs that traditional TV actors' market share is being eaten out by 2 concurring squeezers, let's say. So yeah, the video sharing platform on one side that are very rapidly growing, and the hybrid ad-supported streaming services that have had growing attractiveness for advertisers this year. So just to finish on a slide that also completes what Vincent showed, we really didn't talk before. Collaboration is the new motto to reach mass audiences in this context. So TV is still the king media for domestic reach, local content distribution, and mass audience access. So broadcast is still relevant, but it's in a dire need to reinvent itself and to go towards the streaming and app-based era of content. So we're now seeing a new wave of collaboration between those broadcasters and CTV and streaming spaces. First, on content partnerships. For example, broadcasters and platforms exchanging their content and branding it in the ecosystem of a previously competing streaming service. For example, TF1 and Shahid being on Netflix, ZDF, ITVX, and Atresplayer becoming content corners on Disney Plus in their domestic markets, or BritBox doing a similar deal with HBO Max. We've also seen recently in MENA the announcement that Abu Dhabi Media is going to show their content on Starzplay only. And on the distribution side, we also see that broadcasters are pushing their IPs and channels in aggregators' environment. For example, Channel 4 and ITV on YouTube, but also France TV on Amazon Prime. And another aspect of this is the collaboration that we're seeing on advertising partnerships. So broadcasters and streamers are getting closer to big tech, especially e-commerce, to get access to the data, retail data, that can really push up the next generation of ad sales on video. So Netflix, Roku, and more recently TF1 and M6 all did partnerships with Amazon Ads very recently. And I don't have a conclusion slide, but basically, if I had to give you 3 points to really focus on for this, this evolution of the industry, the device landscape is increasingly dominated by CTV. Streaming is rapidly overtaking broadcast for reach, but also for monetization. And ads are increasingly pushed towards targeting options to meet performance metrics that we already see in the online world. And I'm sorry I blew my time off for questions. But if you have any, feel free to join me after.
Thank you, Ophélie. Wait, no, you can stay there. We actually do have time for one or two quick questions. I watch television on a Google dongle, a Google TV dongle, and it's either Netflix or it's YouTube these days. Where am I in those statistics? In terms of devices and in terms of video sharing platform is YouTube, right?
Yeah.
Netflix is obviously a streamer, but what about the device?
Okay, so the device was like the Google Chromecast and those things are in the 48% of here, the big brackets there. So it's part of like the more fragmented aspect if we're just talking about the distribution
in the other
side.
there, okay.
Yeah.
And in the previous slide then, two back from there. Yes.
Okay.
So are they connected TVs or?
Yeah, according to our view of the industry, if you have a TV set that's connected to the internet, whether it's through a smart TV OS or through a streaming stick, it's considered as part of a connected TV landscape because it's monetizable and it's providing basically an app-based environment.
Good. Does anyone have a quick question for Ophélie? Yes. Magnus from We Do TV.
Yes, my question is, I'm a bit surprised to see the relatively stable graph for direct pay TV households. I would have expected it to, from 2026 onwards, decline in favor of OTT.
It's mostly explained by IPTV actually, because we still have a lot of regions in the world that are increasingly getting connected, and there's a lot of offers that bundle together TV channels with the broadband side. So broadband is still like really rapidly growing in some regions. And the other thing that is not shown in this graph is that despite that, the pay TV market is shrinking in terms of revenue, and you can see that's because the highest valued bundles, so cable, satellite, are going down extremely fast. And that's also impacting actors in this field. The cable cos and the satellite operators are migrating towards OTT, but the ARPUs are much lower there, so their market share is declining very fast.
This slide explains it better, Magnus says it indeed. Thank you very much, Ophélie. Thank you.
My pleasure.